Anyway, I guess the little gal spoke. So welcome to 1:30 meeting. Looks like we want to start with the executive session. Susan, is that what we're talking about?
Yes, please, an executive session for acquisition of property.
Or 10 minutes is short.
10 minutes, please. Yes.
Okay, we'll go right into executive session and get that out.
The board is extending the executive session for a period of 5 minutes until 1:47 p.m.
Sorry, I'm back from executive session. No decisions rendered. We'll just continue on.
Right, I buried my sheet. What did we start with? Okay, so I thought I'd bring to you the Army Corps' level of protection updates. So last week, the Army Corps presented the results from the 2025 river survey and modeling and the level of protection. So I handed out to you the slides that they presented. The big points of interest is if you turn to page 4, they are double-sided, so it's the back of page 2. It shows the authorized level of protection and what our current status is. So these are return periods, not percentages. So for those who aren't familiar, if they're listening, we have various different authorized levels in the levied section only of the Cowlitz River. So there's a levee in Castle Rock that's authorized to the 118-year return period. Lexington is 167. So then the 2 levees on the Kelso side are 143, and Longview is authorized to 167. So if you look at the beautiful graph in the lower portion of that page, the Longview has consistently been running at 500, greater than 500. The Kelso levee has hovered around there the first few years. It dropped below 500, but it's back up to 500. Now the Castle Rock and the Lexington level of protections have bounced around quite a bit. And since 2022, they have both been on a downward trend. Castle Rock being the closest to their authorized level of protection. It is down at the 133-year return period, and Lexington is at the 201 return period versus their return. They're still above what's authorized, but they are approaching it, especially Castle Rock. But if you look at the dashed lines that the Corps included on there, that is their projection of the level of protection when they complete this dam raise, the SRS raise, which is occurring right now as we speak. The contractor has mobilized out there to start that raise. I think it will be interesting because if you look at the hydrology over the past few years, we have had particularly dry years. So the upper portion of the river has not been flushed out because in Castle Rock and Lexington, the river is still steeper than when you hit Longview, Kelso. So it'll be interesting to see if any of that deposition was flushed out this winter because we had two bigger storm events. But we won't know that until this time next year. So at this time, the Corps at the end of this presentation basically said they are not planning on doing anything beyond the SRS raise in the next fiscal year, besides adding those additional monitoring stations. They do include some cross sections in here, which show what they call minor changes with the aggradation of the river. And they've circled several. Those are on pages 14 and 15 up in the Castle Rock and Lexington reach, and River Mile 12.65 and 12.23. For those who aren't familiar, they measure River Mile from the mouth, which is 0, and head upstream. So that's whenever you hear us refer to River Mile, Kelso Longview is down low numbers and Castle Rock is higher. So on page 17, they talk about ongoing and upcoming activities. The 10-foot crest raise, which is currently ongoing, but they have a 2-year construction window, but they're hoping they actually complete it in 2026. The contractor apparently is working 24/6. I believe they said a 24/6 schedule, so on for 24 hours, 6 days a week to try and get this done in 1 year. They are in the process of finishing up their RFP for their 2026 monitoring for their LIDAR and the hydro survey. So they tend to do that in August, September when the river level's the lowest so they can get the most accurate information.
So Susan, because you understand their thinking and the verbiage, help me understand a couple of things. Why are we raising the crest at the SRS?
Because currently they call the river has reached what they call a river run, so that it is no longer. So on the lowest flow days, there is no additional storage, so it's at the straight grade. So the bottom of the river channel is at the top of the weir. So their thoughts are they raise that level up. Only high flows will flow over besides the diversion for the fish weir, so that the water has to sit there and we will settle out more materials. And so we'll only be releasing clearer water from the top.
And currently, isn't it only 13% effective retaining as far as the sediment goes?
Yes, that was what the statistic they gave us. Yeah.
So 87% of that sediment is going over that dam right now.
Yes.
It's coming out of the water. Where does it go?
So it depends on the flow within the river. So in the upper reaches where the grade is steep enough, it gets carried down. And then once the Tootle hits the Cowlitz, the velocity slows down. And so you'll start. So if you flew a drone or you were in a helicopter at the mouth of the Tootle where it hits the Cowlitz, you can see the difference in the color of the water because the Tootle water is much muddier, for lack of a better description, than the Cowlitz. And then you'll see that plume start heading down the river until it gets fully indoctrinated. So the heavier materials start settling once it goes around that bend. in the summer season when it's lower flows. So your larger boulders and gravels start settling out north of Castle Rock and continue on in Castle Rock and to the Lexington area. And somewhere in that stretch, and I don't know exactly where it is what the old, I don't know what you guys call it out here, but on the east, we call it the old fall line, which is where the rivers were tidal to and navigable to. So the gradient of the Cowlitz levels out or somewhere in the Lexington area, which is where you see the tidal influence stop. And then once you hit that point is when the river goes slow enough that the sand and silt start settling out. So it is mainly settling out. The heavier materials up in Lexington, Castle Rock, and in the winter, they get very little deposition in that area. And then in this area, Longview, Kelso area, you're getting the sands and gravels, the sands and silt settling out because it is a much lower flow. And even sometimes in the winter, you can see the tidal influence with the river going up and down. So if you check the river gauge that's over by the Hall of Justice in July and August, you can see the tides fluctuating in that river. And so that the Cowlitz water is actually not getting out for a while because it's pushing back in. So a lot of the sands and spines are settling out then.
So sediment that's coming, the 87% of the sediment that hits the dam that's going over it is transported by the Toutle River and settling in the Cowlitz River.
A high percentage of it, yes. And then there's another, so the mouth of this is why they dredge the mouth of the Cowlitz frequently to keep the channel open, because once the Cowlitz, what hasn't settled out in the Cowlitz River hits the Columbia, turns that corner, it will settle out even more. And because I don't remember who was telling me this, but somebody from one of the ports was saying that the rate of sedimentation from here past the Port of Longview is higher than most parts of the Columbia River just due to this load coming out of the Cowlitz.
So I guess I'm trying to understand this because it's saying that the level of protection is okay. And I don't understand how the river's capacity is not being implicated by the amount of sediment that's in there and its ability to hold water during a flooding event. How is it not impacted? Because according to that, it says we're good for another 135 years or whatever it reads.
So the Corps' authorization is only to provide flood protection for the leveed areas. And they are only required to maintain the level of protection that was in place in the levees. It was either in 1984 or 1985, based on a river model of what the level of protection was. So they were then required to maintain that moving forward. So what they look at is the level of protection during various storm events. They run a program that's a river model based on the gauge data and what their cross sections across is. They run multiple scenarios, which is amazing to me how fast they can run them now compared to when I started doing it. And what they see is that the return period, especially in Longview, Kelso, has not changed beyond what was there in the mid-1980s. Lexington and Castle Rock, because we're settling out up further of the river, has changed. So if you look at this monitoring data I'll pick a year that I can read both of them. In 2020, both Lexington and Castle Rock had a return period of 250. Castle Rock now is down to 118 and Lexington is to 167. So there is a just slightly less than 1% chance that the city of Castle Rock area will get a flood in any given year, is what the return period is. So you flip that number upside down in a statistic. And so statistically, every 100 years or less, 1% chance of getting the storm. So in the Castle Rock and Lexington area, you can see that sediment impacting the flood protection. And I know everybody talks about, I can look out in the river, and in between Castle Rock and Lexington, yes, there are sandbars, and they're different sandbars than were there 10, 15 years ago. We've had stream migration, stream creek, river migration with different sandbars building up. Now, river migration is not that uncommon, especially on I would call this a young river system because it completely changed in 1980. But even prior to that, we have historic pictures of the Cowlitz, and even going through Google Earth, I can draw a line on Google Earth along the shoreline and between Lexington and Kelso, and you can see how much it moves and how much it's moved, not just since 1980, but since I believe 1942 was the first picture I started looking at. Horseshoe Bend is called a Horseshoe Bend for a reason. That river was at least 100, 200 feet in a different location prior to the eruption than it is now. So yes,
So
it's,
the visible sediment that we see is not necessarily an indicator of the river's ability to hold water.
no. Because if you look at the cross sections, some of them are included here. Some of the channels are deeper. Some of them have shifted. Some of them used to have flat and a foul wag is what they call it, where the main channel flow is. And now some of those locations, your Thalweg area is wider because you now have a higher island, or you have a braided channel where there's an island in the middle, but during high flow, it'll go out to the opposite side of that. So yes, the flow is different. Yes, different locations are flooding. I do not believe that we have statistically seen a higher frequency of times where we've had to shut down some of our frequently flooded roads, like Ostrander and Alpha. We are still seeing a consistent number of flood events. I mean, some years we have 1, some years we have 4, but it's not every year now is a higher number. And I can't tell you when that's going to change. I do know that the river bottom is higher than it was in 1980. Talking to some of the people who were involved in the Lexington area. Excuse me. So that main pump station in Lexington, that McCorkle pump station, was completed and never ran before the mountain erupted. And with the mountain's eruption, they had to raise the outfall because the river bottom raised 5 to 10 feet. So the river is still not as deep as it was in 1980 in many locations.
It's still not what?
Not as deep as it was in 1980, the main channel, because the river level raised, and I don't believe they ever dredged it fully back. I believe in the 80s they got close back to what it was prior to the eruption.
I just don't understand how, I'm trying to make sense of the terminology and the thought process behind it, because we're spending $37 million to raise a crest on a sediment retention structure because the sediment is going over the dam. It's not retaining, but 13% of it, the Tootle is transferring that into the Cowlitz, and these reports say nothing's changed. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't quite understand that.
So we have seen some change in Lexington and Castle Rock, but so the difference, once you get beyond the 2 to 25-year storm, the difference between a 99-year storm and a 100-year storm, or even a 95-year and a 100-year return period, I couldn't stand out on the Cowlitz River and say, oh, this is a 95-year storm versus this is a 100. We're talking half-inch height difference, because once you get to these big storms, you're starting to hit your 100-year floodplain, and so it widens out dramatically. So that's why you're not seeing it in this. And if you think about the levees, you've got the layback. So your volume of water increases dramatically as you go up the faces of those levees. So that's why in the level of protection in these areas, you don't necessarily see it as much. And then if you think about Lexington and Castle Rock versus down here in Longview, Kelso. So Lexington is protected on one side. So once the river reaches a certain height, it starts spilling over the other side. So the level of protection in Lexington and downtown Castle Rock is there's water on the opposite side of the river out of what we consider the river in the floodplain. So they've got a lot of space before it'll hit the top of the levee. So that's why we're just looking at these levee protected areas. So Longview and Kelso is protected both sides, but Lexington and Castle Rock is not. So even though those are the areas that are dropping, you've got to consider that in Lexington, where the opposite side of the Cowlitz, they're getting water long before the level of protection is hit.
Is the structural integrity of the levee being considered when they're talking about level of protection?
No. The level of, so the Mount St. Helens core authorization is in one group. The levee program is a different group. So the level of protection is purely what the level of the river is. So the levee integrity is overseen by a different part of the Corps, and they come out and do inspections of these levees every 2 to 5 years, where they will walk the entire levee and give recommendations to the diking districts on what improvements they need to make.
And that's one of the sources of funding that we're looking into to repair the levee, because it's different from what the Corps' responsibility
Yes,
is.
it's in a different thing of, that's in the levee works in those missions, where that pot of money is, versus the Mount St. Helens pot, which is an operations and maintenance function versus the levee system program.
Do we know how much sediment or how much material is dredged out of the Columbia by the Port of Longview now compared to what it was pre-St. Helens eruption?
I do not have that number, but I can ask the Port of Longview what kind of number that they have, if they have a number of that on that.
I guess the other thing, as far as river volume goes, a river that I could drive a boat from the Columbia River to Castle Rock, you take a river bottom that's 20 feet wide and it's 10 feet deep. So you got 200 cubic feet, for example. And now all of a sudden you fill in that 10 feet deep. And now you got to be 400 feet wide and 4 inches or 6 inches deep to have the same volume. Consequently, that water running from bank to bank is eroding the levees. It's eroding the banks, whether they were intended to be a levee or not. The stuff that the Army Corps of Engineers put out on the banks with the idea that they were going to protect and stuff, it's coming back into the river because the riverbed is full of ash or full of sediment. I don't care what it is, gravel, rocks, boulders, logging trucks. I don't care what it is. If it's filling in that old river bottom, it's pushing the water up and out. And to say that it's got the same volume of protection that it had pre-St. Helens, I don't believe it. They haven't raised all the dikes that much. I don't think they raised everything, all the levees that much after the eruption. Maybe they did. Did they raise all the levees from here to?
So so the original agreement in 1984 was between the state Drainage Improvement District number 1 and CDID number 3. They raised North Kelso and South Kelso levees. I know there was some work done prior to that on the Longview levee. They've done some work on the Castle Rock levee, and they've done work on the Lexington levee. I don't know exactly what they did in Longview and Castle Rock. I know that they've raised the Lexington and the Kelso levees post-eruption.
You know, by how much they had to raise it or did raise it?
I don't know it off the top of my head, but I know that Lexington was at least a foot. But I can find those numbers also fairly easily.
Okay.
Thank you for trying to explain that to a simpleton like myself.
Appreciate your
It's-
patience.
Yeah,
Oh, no, it's a complicated whole special area of study that very few people dip their toes into. And they've been trying to get away from that 100-year storm, 100-year event and go to the probability, thinking that people will understand that because they've had instances in areas where you've had a 100-year storm, and then the next year they're saying, well, no, you had a 100-year storm, and they don't understand hasn't been 100 years, it was last year. So they've tried to start putting this into the probability. For those of you around in 96, they talked about originally that was going to be a 100-year storm, but then they got more data and they lowered the level of storm. So even what we call a 100-year storm in 1985 is not a 100-year storm in 2026. And what we call a 100-year storm in 2026 might be different next year. Because as they gather more data, they average it all together and it will change
how often do they do these LOP updates?
annually. Well, except for a stretch of years where they were not. So from about 2014 to 17, I think, maybe longer, the Corps was not funded. So there was a year where the county was going in with the districts to pay for it. And we got as far as I had the RFP written up for the bathymetric survey. We had agreements in place with the two of the districts already. And the Corps finally said, no, you can't do this, and found the money to do it. And ever since then, because this board has been lobbying, we need this, it has been funded ever since. But there were quite a few years, there was 3 or 4 years where there was no data collected.
Don't I remember, winter of 96, November, and then again in February, didn't they title both of those as 500-year storms?
I physically was not here, but I have heard that they were both tagged as really high storms and that they've dropped since then. So what they originally tagged them is not what they call them now because of the additional data that we've collected over the years.
Well, I can't,
And then,
for being down at Willow Grove and seeing the water in the Columbia River within about 2 feet of being in Willow Grove instead of being in the Columbia River.
yeah. And then there's also a difference between a 100-year rain event and a 100-year river event because it may rain a 100-year event, but you might get more river flow if you've had a snow event and then a rain event on top of it. And where it rains in Randall, if it rains more in Randall, and then here we'll have a higher river event than we will a storm event. So that is another thing, that there's 2 different types of events. There's the river event and there's the rain event.
And is the tide affecting, would that be considered part of the river event?
Yes, the tide will impact, especially Willow Grove, and then the lower Cowlitz has the biggest impact, but the biggest impact's Willow Grove for the tides. But the Columbia isn't quite as flashy as the Cowlitz. So Cowlitz gets more direct effect of the rains. Actually, the river in town here that gets the highest effect of the rains is the Coweeman. It will go up really fast sometimes, when the Cowlitz is coming up much slower.
Okay.
Okay, that was a lot of words. So the next pile of papers I left up there for you guys. So we have been having multiple meetings with the Corps. We'll continue with the theme of the Corps today. So in the last round of meetings we were talking with Omar Ortiz about, they call them the Army Corps CAP programs, and that stands for Continuing Authorizations Programs. So the first sheet that I handed to you in the packet is the summary of what the continuing authorities are. So this is all comes out of the WRDA, the Water Resources blah, 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 blah Act, that they can partner with local agencies for continuing programs in things that they've done. So levee works, floodplains, dams. So the first page is a list of what they call them. So there's section 14, section 103, 107, 111, 204, 205, 206, 208, and 1135. And what the cost share is for each of those programs, because the local sponsor always has to play and pay. So you have to pay to play. So I printed out the next 4 pages are programs pulled from that list that the county might be able to tap into. So there's section 14, which is emergency stream bank and shoreline protection, that will apply to protect public facilities in imminent danger of failing. And the bank failure must be caused by natural erosion, stream flow, wind, waves, et cetera, and not by inadequate drainage or the facility itself. So that is section 14, that's availability. Based on conversations, they make you, you are required as part of this to do a feasibility study as the first phase, and then the design and construction phase is based on that feasibility study with a 65-35% share. So based on a conversation that I had with Omar, the feasibility study takes you 1.5 to 2 years, and they all will only pay for a project that replaces it in kind, in location. So that is a restriction on that program. So for the LT1 area, besides Tootle Park Road, it's not going to damage a public facility. So not a road, not a hospital, not a school. So anything besides the road would not qualify. My recollection back in 2024, when we started talking to him, I was like, well, you know, it's going to cost us $3 million to fix it here and half that to build it somewhere else and abandon this. And he said, well, abandoning it wouldn't count. So that's why back then we didn't go forward with section 14.
So the fact that it's taking the road is not enough of a qualification.
So yes and no. Yes, if we were able to build it in place, but because of the environmental permitting and the cost, they would consider that infeasible because the alternative, building it in a different location, is less environmental impact and less cost.
And so this won't help us with the building of the new road?
No, I will revisit that with Omar, but I'm pretty sure, especially because we're as far down the road as we are, that they would consider that a no-go, unfortunately. So then the other 3 programs that I included are continuing 204, which is the beneficial use of dredge materials. So this could be used for the use of dredge spoil materials and aquatic and ecological rehabilitation based on dredge spoils. Would require 100 feasibility study, and it's a 65-35% cost share. 206 is aquatic ecosystem restoration, and it's pays for aquatic ecosystem restoration and protection projects that improve the quality of the environment. and it cannot be used to mitigation or remediation. And then 1135 is also an aquatic ecosystem restoration, and it's to improve the quality of the environment, degrade it as a result of the construction or operation of a core or joint core or other federal project. So the first sheet that I did hand you that was a generic one I found on the internet of summary and what the dollar amounts are. But during our conversations with Omar, he sent me a more up-to-date list of what the 2025 was. So section 14 is not well funded. So it only had $1 million in fiscal year 2026, excuse me, 26, not 25. The other ones we were looking at, 204 had 18 millions and nobody has touched that funding. 206 only had $500,000 in it, and then 1135 had $3 million in it. So I know I just threw a lot of information, and some of it not as necessarily well explained as some of the others, but I knew that we were running short on time of all of you guys being here, and so I'm kind of looking for direction of, did you want me to start exploring more fully one of these programs with a project specific in mind, so I can start writing, because the first step is a letter of interest that you send. We are looking at a project, blah, 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 for a section, blah, 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 whichever one we're looking at, and to see if they would be willing to earmark some of these funds to start moving to the feasibility phase. And then knowing that if we did move beyond the feasibility phase, that it's a 65-35 split on most of these programs, that we would have to find from the general fund somewhere a way to pay our portion of the project.
So Susan, would the section 14, would that one qualify with the issues that we're having with the dike in Lexington? Would that particular, isn't that one what this one was also for? The restoration of that dike?
So that was that's public law because it was not, because it's Patrick reached out to the Corps, and because it's I'm trying to get the words straight in my head. Sorry for closing my eyes, but I'm seeing the words flow. So that's under Public Law 84. Oh, now I forgot the rest of the number. Because it's an existing work of the Corps, and it was noticed, and it's not the Lexington, it's actually right up here on this Kelso Dike between the two districts. Because it was noted in a inspection, not a direct storm effect, because it's been a maintenance issue, it doesn't apply. The Public Law 84 for emergency repairs does not apply, so that the districts have to pay for it out of their maintenance budgets, is what we have received back from the Corps. And I do have that in writing in an email if you are interested in seeing the response to that. And I can do more reaching out on some of these section 14, because there was also another one when I was reading through this. Vanna needs to keep me better organized. She didn't realize that was her job. So I didn't know if we could reach it also under flood damage reduction, but they're saying because it's not directly attributable to a storm, that it's just a general degradation, that these don't apply. I was going to do a little more research and send out more feelers on that for them to try and get some money so that it's not passed along to the ratepayers, because that is what's going to happen.
So if so if it's a maintenance issue, it's happening because of the redirection of the flow of water due to the sediment that's being deposited into the river. Is that our maintenance issue or the Corps' maintenance issue?
That is a good question that I'm sure some lawyers would have fun talking in circles about, because you could argue that, I could argue that either way.
Okay.
I could.
And then 204, we gave, was it that we gave $100,000 to look at the, was it the cog?
Cog.
So how does this play into that? What we gave them money to do? Is this similar to what they're doing?
Yes and no.
Two-handed economist. On one hand, we have this, and on the other hand, we
We have that. So what the COG is looking at is what we can sell those dredge spoils for and use them for. What this is looking at is, and they called it beneficial use of dredge materials. And then I started reading the description, and it sounds like it's an environmental restoration that you, let's say, the island down here, where
A lot of new ones.
this one where they put a lot of dredge spoils at the mouth of the
Cottonwood,
Cowlitz.
Something.
So let's say that somebody decided, once they put the dredge there, let's replant it, make it this great wetland native habitat. So now we're using a beneficial use of the dredge spoils by doing ecological restoration. That's how I read section 204.
So where we displace the spoils is what it essentially is.
Yes, so that we are then now making it ecologically habitable. Because they call it to implement projects for the protection, restoration, and creation of aquatic and ecologically related habitats, including wetlands, or to reduce storm damage to property. In connection with dredging for the construction and operation and maintenance of an existing authorized federal navigation project. And that word right there, navigation project, is what will limit us from, and being able to use this money for LT1 bank stabilization, because that is not a navigation project. It is a federally authorized work of the Army Corps, well, because they did the dredge spoils and put it there. So that's the question. Can they waive the navigation and section 204 apply to some bank stabilization on LT1? Because bank stabilization, you could argue, is ecological reestablishment out there.
So we might possibly be able to use this in the future when we're talking, when the Cowlitz is going to be dredged, as far as the location where those spoils are going to go.
Yes. And we could also potentially, maybe with further conversations, use one of these 204, 206, or 1135 for some bank stabilization up on LT1 or LT2, all of those ones that we have up there on the Tootle to help aquatic habitat and keep that from going back into the river.
Okay. And then the 206 and the 1135 were with regards to the mouth of the Cowlitz with regards to the fish and what was going on there, correct?
Correct, where you were talking about how, because of the way it's channelized and they're in the narrow channel, that could be something that could be explored with one of these, yes. Especially because they directly, you can directly attribute them to a navigation project, because dredging of the Columbia is considered a navigation project, and they do dredge the mouth of the Cowlitz as part of the navigation project.
It seems to me that, and this, I don't know why I'm surprised, but they could have $10 billion budgeted each one of these if the qualifications are never going to get met to use them. But it doesn't matter how much money they've got available. But it's just me.
One thing they're very good at is telling you why they can't do it.
Yes.
Have to
Yeah.
study it, have to study it.
Yeah, it must be a 3 foot thick book.
Do we,
Anyway,
do we know when we have another meeting set up with Omar? I know you guys had some, so nothing
Not yet.
established. Okay.
We said we were gonna talk about it as a board and decide what direction we were gonna have Susan go and then go from there.
Would it be reasonable to try to bring this up after you guys have some time to digest some of this information, bring it at another workshop where the board will be all present and then we can follow up from there? Or
Or do you have a list of questions you want me to reach out to Omar with? I can certainly do that, and then at a later date, we can talk about this again.
I'm in favor for going to get whatever we can and getting them to pay for what they need to pay for as part of their responsibility. They're really good at deflecting and shoving everything off on everybody else, but I view it as this is all a result of the eruption of the mountain. And that all to me falls into the same category, but my thought is, let's go get what we gotta get.
So I will create a summary for you guys of the programs and possible projects and come up with some questions, send them to Omar and bring that information back, what I can. Because I'm getting the feeling we want to be looking at shoreline, at LT1, something at the mouth, and then seeing what we can get for floodworks protection. Did you write all that down for me? Sure did. I had one last thing, still in the same theme. The final EIS was just issued for the Columbia River dredging. And my question to the board was, did you guys want to make any comments or send a support letter for that? Because the comments are due the end of this month.
Have you gone through the
the
report? and read it?
dredging. Or to keep the channel?
Yes, the dredging to keep the channel. I have not read the report. It was just issued on Friday. I'm not that big of a speed reader yet. I can't put them in my head, so. And
I didn't know they had to put that out because it's a marine highway. I thought they just did it.
They, for the spoils, they have to do the final EIS. So I'm guessing that's Susan, read it and bring us back what you think.
That's where I'm at.
Okay, I will do that. Now I'll
So
stop
that's
talking.
support to dredge it from where, the mouth to Portland, or?
I haven't read it at all. I think this might be the whole plan from the lower Columbia, so wherever that starts, all the way out to the mouth of the Columbia.
My only comment on that is from just the federal review perspective, that's really the only way for our county to get a word in edgewise that's acknowledged by all those departments in the capital. So excited for your summary update. Happy reading. Okay, Savannah Clement, Public Services. I'm going to speed along here. I know we've got people waiting. I have a facilities budget item I wanted to bring to the board. I did not do an S-bar on this, but I am seeking direction. The reason I didn't is because I don't have a lot of information yet really to populate that, but that will be coming if the board is interested. And so what my ask is in trying to determine ways to cut general fund budget items like facilities, how we could come up with a creative way to do that. And we're struggling, but we did our team approached Sean last week. And I'm not going to look at him, but he gave me the thumbs up. Okay. And I'd like to pursue doing an internal service fund change. And what that means is currently you see facilities on the general fund list, right, with everybody else. What you don't see is IT. And IT, I see them as a similar service that facilities provides to multiple departments within the county, but they're set up differently, so they don't impact the general fund in the same way, at least not the $3.2 million way that facilities currently is. And so what I would like to propose, if I have the blessing of the board to at least pursue this option, is to look at it from an internal service fund perspective, which means we have to bill departments that aren't just general fund, it's everyone that would have our service. And so what that looks like is currently facilities being a general fund does not bill other general funds. So that's a huge cut to any, potential revenue for our fund. We don't bill public works. So we don't bill roads, water, sewer, shops. We don't bill elections. Sorry, Carolyn, this would be a change if it goes forward. But what this would do would be more spread it evenly across the county departments to where everybody's kind of paying their fair share. And I would propose we would start looking at it from a square footage perspective. So square footage of the buildings and how much occupied space those departments utilize. But I think it could pose a really significant fund savings for the general fund moving forward. So it wouldn't be a one-time fix. It would be, for as long as the board supported having an internal service done in that way. Did I do kind of? No, it's fine. Did you guys have any questions? No.
John Rowie. Thanks, Savannah. So Public Works brought this up last week. We still have a lot of legwork to do, especially involving legal to see if it's something that's even possible. And then really hashing out fine details. So it's very early, but possible.
It's not really a savings to the county, it's just a redistribution.
As
I
a
mean,
county in total.
It
would
makes
not
the
be a
general fund look
savings.
better, but it's still the
Right.
same expense across the whole county.
Correct. Yep.
Mhm.
We're just shifting the responsibility, spreading it out.
I would say that we're doing it in a way, and this isn't just because I think this is a good idea, because for the record, I think this is a good idea. But it would be charging the departments who don't currently have the responsibility to be charged or are getting charged, but are utilizing that service. Like roads is a great example. We don't currently pay anything right now into facilities. Now, that could be an option that if the board says, don't go this route, we would work with Sean on making sure we're capturing all of these departments that weren't historically getting billed. Being an internal service is just that. You have to fund your service. Right now, facilities is just a general fund contribution. You guys allocate, next year, $3.2 million so that we can do our job. It would look a little bit different. It would be redistributing it, but it would be, in my opinion, more of an equitable charge-based service. So we would be charging the departments that are utilizing our service for what they owed.
And I will say in Public Works defense, in the past, Public Works did not use facilities. We went out and did our projects independently because our main admin building was new. And then at the shops, a lot of the work was done by the people who work there. So it has been an evolution in the past since Mike and Savannah came to Public Works that we started utilizing facilities, because prior to that, they didn't change our light bulbs, they didn't do our electrical projects, our HVAC. We had outside support contracted through Public Works.
And Kim's in the room, but Expo, historically didn't get any support from facilities, so they didn't pay. They still don't pay. We try to help out if they need help when we can. There's also an opportunity, I would say it's an opportunity to do it more of a work-based charge system, work order-based, similar to what we would do for roads. If a city asked us to do a task, we would do that based off of an established rate of pay, and we would charge them for it. So there's also that way of looking at it as well, where you're getting reimbursed for the work performed. And that's how I see it.
I can see the justification for what you're doing. I'm not so sure that by square footage of a department is equitable.
Yeah, we tried to, because we don't have a work order-based system that we could say, commissioner's office, we changed 5 light bulbs last month, therefore you're getting charged this rate. We don't have that information to start out with. So we were thinking, and again, this is very, very early, but when working with Sean, we were thinking, well, we would have to have like kind of an audit-proof way of charging these departments. And what we've done historically through OFM's allocation, it's been through square footage. So that was just an easy that's the low hanging fruit of this is how we've done it. We would continue at least for that first year until we got more of a charge-based system established to charge people the exact like 1 hour, here's what you're paying. And it's just an easier way too for those departments to budget because they already know what they're getting year to year.
So I do think it's important to note that facilities does have a current allocation
Mhm.
for departments and things that are in the admin building and the Hall of Justice. We do an allocation
Yep.
of that on square foot basis
Mhm.
for non-general fund departments. This would be kind of looking at it from a broader perspective countywide, but we may be able to accomplish that other ways as well. But kind of just getting a feel from the board, it sounds like today.
Mhm. Yeah. So a good example, and we hear this kind of, people ask us a lot, why is DEM, is a good example, paying XYZ amount a month or a year in janitorial? Well, that's just the bars line that it comes out of. But really what that is it's their portion of the Hall of Justice expenses. Unfortunately for them, they're one of 2 departments in that building, 1.5, that actually pays anything because the rest are general fund. So general fund doesn't pay general fund. It is what it is. And so again, it's a way to look at that in more of an equitable. And so what department in this building picks up their square footage for the allocation? Pop quiz.
Off the top of my head, I believe IT, noxious weed, EHU, in building and planning.
Part of them because they're split. So that gives you kind of an idea of just this building alone, who picks up costs and who doesn't. So I just wanted to get this in front of the board before we are missing folks, just making sure you guys all had the same information. I'd love to work on a little bit more with Sean and come back with some actual numbers and a situation that you guys could look at in front of you, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
I'm gonna look at it.
Yeah, yeah, we'll get something together to at least have in front of you guys the next time you're all 3 back. Okay. If there's no other questions on that, thanks, Sean. Talking a little bit about animal control. We have been meeting weekly with a small team to move forward on this project, which again, just for reference, is looking at another building that the county owns, which needs some work. And we recently got a couple bids in to give an idea of what the cost of that scope would be. We had a low bid and a medium bid, and I'll go with the medium one. It was about $150,000 to get kind of what we would need in that place to get it running for an operable kennel. And so I wanted to make sure I brought that to the board to give you guys kind of a frame of reference for the cost. I anticipate it will be a little bit more than that with fixing the roof and fixing some of the siding, but I don't anticipate that it's going to double the cost or anything like that. So we're still working on getting the roof and the siding quotes in, but that would be for concrete aprons, lean-to, kennel, water, sewer, I don't think it'll need any electrical upgrades that I'm aware of. So that would just be the building itself. The other item that we worked on, the City of Longview has been really great to work with. They're actually bringing those zoning requirements in with their planning clearance process for us. So they already have that established and set here in the next, I think, 4 to 6 weeks with a public hearing on other items. And they're going to actually roll that zoning request in with that process, which will be good for us. The sheriff has given us like a target date of July 1 to be ready. So we'll meet that with the planning and the zoning changes, so that's a good thing. The other item that we have is we do have a rough design, and by rough, I mean really rough, because it's my hand-drawn design that we finally kind of got the blessing of the sheriff and others on our team. So we'll be moving forward with that. And then the last item is we also have a draft RFQ ready that we've kind of vetted with the team and the sheriff and purchasing, and we'll be sending that to legal for review. And what that is a request for qualifications for nonprofit partners to take animals after they exceed the 72 hours or the 14-day hold. So that's a lot as well, but I wanted to make sure I gave you guys an update on those items because we are moving forward on that still. Okay, any questions? Okay, and that is all I have.
I do have a quick question, kind of a
Sure.
side note here. Without mentioning any names or any specific transactions or issues. How does a land swap work with one of our pieces of property in Longview? Do you know? If we're in the middle of talking to somebody and they want a piece of property that we have
Mhm.
that is within Longview city limits, and they propose a land swap, what exactly does that mean? Are you aware of that?
We've done one recently and yeah, with the event center, PDA land swap, but I can't speak to that. So I'll let maybe Kim want to swap.
I was gonna say the best person is probably the surveyor, or which attorney was involved in that? I can't remember.
Dana.
Okay.
With our PA's office.
Yeah.
Handled the county end of that land swap. And basically what it was when we swapped equitably equal property on the backside of the event center for property within the event center. And there was economical gain, or I don't remember exactly what the terminology was, but there was gain. So there was a reason to do it.
There was a gain by both parties?
Correct. That was done in 2017, I believe that was finalized. Could probably go back through that information from that time. It is still, the land is still swapped. There is a sunset clause. So if the property isn't utilized for what it was swapped for, it will revert back.
Okay.
I had a quick question on the Humane Society. I've not been following that. Is there a plan for large animal? And the reason I ask is because currently there's a couple of horses in West Longview that are being held by a private citizen that are. I don't have any information as far as large animals go. The direction I have is to work with our minimum requirements by law, which is essentially public health and safety and dangerous. So if they would be considered a public health and safety issue, then the sheriff's office would get control. But I don't know what agreements they have with other like farm nonprofit that would take horses and, sorry, Sheriff Thurman would know though. Okay. If you want to reach out. Okay. Do you want to be a volunteer? Is that what you're? Well, I wouldn't mind being part of the process and only because, I live in the county, so sometimes there's in the past, there's cows out on Delameter Road quite often. Horses get out and so we've had pigs. I know recently they had an issue with pigs. So. Yeah. Not just escaped animals, but, in poor situations, things like that. So. Oh, that'd be, yeah, Sheriff Thurman's your person. Okay, I'm gonna go sit back down. Before you sign yourself up for other things. Okay, sorry. I know that the auditor's waiting, so I don't have any other items unless the board has questions for us. Okay, thank you.
These update meetings are somewhat new, and so I never know how much information to bring. I should be paying attention. I never pay attention while she's doing this. That works. I never know what necessarily to include, not include, and I'm just going to say blame Rick Dahl. I met with him yesterday and he encouraged me to bring in to this meeting. Sorry to everybody that's now sitting in the audience. It's my turn. Okay. So those that don't know, auditor's office is made up of 5 very, very small, completely unrelated divisions: accounts payable, payroll, licensing, recording, and elections. And you're getting an update on all of those divisions today. So accounts payable and payroll, right now, we are in the middle of our financial statement period. It is progressing on time. We have a May 30th deadline. Our annual audit with the state auditor's office is scheduled to begin the 1st of June. No break at all for Kaylee. Our auditor service billings are being prepared this month, and they'll be distributed to the departments in June. And also mid-year grant worksheets are sent to departments in June. That's super helpful. A lot of our findings typically revolve around grants, and that mid-year check-in is a really good opportunity for departments to get some help from us before it's too late for an audit period. And lastly, we're currently implementing PeopleSoft changes to comply with the requirements of the One Big Beautiful Bill. And it sounds like completion is scheduled for June. So unfortunately, we won't be able to retroactively capture the first half of 2026 of that qualified FLSA overtime. That will have to be calculated manually. It is what it is. I'm really just fortunate that we're moving forward with PeopleSoft and have a solution in place moving forward. And I want to give a positive plug here. I can say that we have never received this level of support and communication with PeopleSoft. So it's a huge relief to see progress being made.
All the kinks have been worked out, like the ones that we had previously with people's W-2s. We're good to go now.
Yeah, the vendor that we're working with is collaborating well. Communication is working as it should. All parties are involved, and there's like finally progress moving forward. So while we can't go back and make up for that time that we lost, we're kind of in a position for 2026 where there will be some very manual reporting. I'm still just happy to see that 2027, we're going to be in the clear until the next mandate comes down. So licensing never gets any love. I wanted to share just a quick brief history on licensing before our newest board members came. The auditor's office is considered an agent in contract with DOL. I have then 3 sub-agents with CNL Auto Licensing, Castle Rock Auto Licensing, and Lewis River Auto Licensing that we refer to as sub-agents. But something that you may not know is that DOL updated their contracts back in 2016, which started a transfer of responsibilities to the auditor's office, like everything else. So now, as the agent, I am responsible for the training and monitoring of all sub-agent personnel and functions. That used to be a DOL responsibility in years past. So that contract change happened way back in 2016. We raised a pretty significant stink, and it took them a really long time to enforce it. It finally went live this year. But in those years, I gained a licensing and recording manager. That's why we took on an additional sub-agent, which was Castle Rock Auto Licensing, generating additional revenue, which offset the cost of that recording manager. And that recording manager, licensing and recording manager's duty is to perform the ongoing audits and monitoring for DOL that's required in those contracts. In fact, we just started the first of those 3. It's in progress. So I wanted you to be aware that the county collects the same amount of revenue regardless of where the transaction happens, so long as it's in the county. So it's like a balancing game. I have to maintain a certain amount of certified staff that's capable of performing that ongoing training and monitoring of our sub-agents. However, it's not a mandated duty of mine, right? So I bring it up because licensing is where I am cutting for my budget cuts. We will be eliminating a position upon a retirement. So the public generally will see a reduction in services. It's kind of a training for me to try to train them to visit our sub-agencies The county won't see a loss in revenue, but if you come into the county to renew your tabs, you may see longer lines. So on the topic of revenue, I wanted to bring some of our latest revenue reports, which we send to OFM each month. So I know that you've likely seen this in the past. I brought a month-to-month licensing revenue capture since 2023, but I wanted to point out if you can spot the recent increase in revenue. This is a result of a legislative fee increase with a $1 filing fee increase effective January 1, 2026, providing the county a pretty good boost in revenue. This particular fee has remained fairly stagnant for the last 20 years. So it's a very small increase at $1 compared to the numerous DOL fee increases over the last 2 years. Under recording, I wanted to provide an update on my records digitization project. As you know, I transferred custody of auditor records to Washington State Archives during the pandemic, and it's a priority of mine to digitize those records so that the public have free and available access to them. I am in contract with Washington State Archives on this project. Records from 89 to present were already scanned and available in our system. So the project is really focused on our older records, with our earliest records dating back to 1854. So we were awarded a $50,000 grant from Washington State Archives in 2019 and another $50,000 in 2024. And those funds have significantly offset the cost of this project. But it has been much slower than I anticipated. Unfortunately, that was due to the pandemic. Some offices or whole state departments just disappeared. And then after that, there was some significant staffing challenges. So it took us almost 2 years to make it through the first $50,000 in grant funding. It's been a long time. All that to say, I am very impressed with the quality. This project goes beyond just digitally imaging. This is indexing. So indexing is the most labor intensive and costly part of the project, but it's absolutely essential. It's the piece that allows the public to search for a record. So they're tying terms like grantor, grantee, parcel number, address, names, things like that, that people identify the records under. Otherwise, they'd be almost unsearchable, right? Because nobody knows what an AFN or an auditor file number is, and you certainly don't have it memorized. So that level of detail makes a difference in making it available for the public. And I'm happy to announce the project is nearing an end. Archives is currently putting together the final series of our records so that the public can easily find them on the Auditor's Public Records search on the website. And I would not talk about recording without providing you some recording revenue and updates. So this is this doesn't mean a lot because this is recording revenue for state and local combined. It's a lot of money, but that the county technically doesn't see. Just want to make sure that you are aware of it, but I really want to focus on local. So this is a breakdown of the local revenue. And again, you may notice an increase kind of beginning in late 2025. More legislative changes. It can be attributed to HB 1858, which took effect in July 27th, 2025. It eliminated exemptions on certain loan-related documents, assignments, substitutions, and previously recorded deeds. Eliminating that exemption on those documents created a jump in fees from $18 for the first page to the full fee of $303.50, creating a lot more revenue. And everyone loves visuals. they speak for themselves. This chart illustrates the allocation of the full recording fee of $303.50. So the very small blue sliver there, that is the $11.83 for local recording revenue that we retain. The tiny orange sliver there is the $9 portion for state and local document preservation. We don't get to keep all of that. That's combined. And then the large gray section is the $282.67 for state and local housing fees. It doesn't stop there, though. Here's another visual. That $282.67 housing fee allocation, I wanted to break that down between state and local. So the big blue, large $227.77 is state housing fees, and then the $54.90 is our local housing fees there in orange. If you don't have any questions, I'll move on to elections. So there is honestly so much happening in elections right now between executive orders, new legislation, recent judicial rulemaking, from redistricting to ballot postmarks. I could speak for hours. I am just going to bring a couple of recent judicial decisions and a potential issue. And I realize you have a packed house, so you can give me the hook at any time. Okay, you're looking at a design proof of our ballot mailing envelope. I struggled on whether or not to bring this to you today because this ultimately may or may not affect us. However, I decided I wanted it on your radar. So a little history. ESSB 5890 passed in 2024, creating a statewide uniform ballot envelope design. Based on research, variations of envelope layouts across counties contributed to differences in signature challenges, cure rates, and voter confusion. So the bill mandated that county auditors create one uniform envelope design, and it's to be in effect this 2026 primary. So the state formed a work group, and after a year of working on it, they finalized an envelope design earlier this year. And because design approval from USPS and printing process takes several months, Cowlitz County moved quickly to ensure the new envelopes would be ready in time for military ballots to be mailed, which is next month, June 19th. It's right on top of us. The cost of that printing for the two elections was nearly $65,000. I bring this to your attention because a pending U.S. Supreme Court case, Watson versus RNC, Republican National Committee, will impact our elections process in Washington State. If you're not familiar, the petitioner, Watson, argues that federal law requires ballots to be cast by election day, but not necessarily received by election day. Their position is that ballots postmarked by election day should be counted as part of standard election administration, with states retaining authority over ballot processing timelines. Now, the respondents, Republican National Committee, argues that federal law requires ballots to be both cast and received by election day. They contend that counting ballots received after Election Day effectively extends the election beyond the federally established deadlines and is therefore preempted by federal law. Now, those of you that have served on canvassing board know that we accept anything with a valid postmark right up until the day before canvass, which is 15 days for specials and primaries and 21 days for general election. So in light of this case, county auditors recently met with the Secretary of State, who urged us to remove references to postmarking from ballot envelopes, instruction inserts, online messaging, pending a final decision in this case. The $65,000 in envelopes that I just printed, that this messaging was not on my previous versions. This creates significant concern for me. There is no practical way to reprint these envelopes for the primary. Even if it were possible, it would be difficult to justify the additional cost to the taxpayer for a change that may ultimately not be required. We don't know what's going to happen in this case. Nearly half of Washington's counties are in the same boat that we are in. And at this time, I just want it on your radar because there are no good solutions here. At this point, I think the most feasible option would be to include an emergency insert in the ballot package and targeted press releases, online messaging about the way postmarks are handled. That's about all we can do.
Have they given you any indication as to when that's going to settle?
No. Yeah, they were hoping June, but I don't know. So this is the return envelope image. This is the one that on the backside the voter typically signs, and you can see all of these envelopes have new required postmark language on them, which we did not have in the past. Just one of our many issues. Another one, big decision last week. If you're unfamiliar with this case, the Louisiana versus, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, Cowlitz. Louisiana has 6 congressional districts, and Black residents make up roughly 1/3 of the state's population. After the 2020 census, Louisiana initially adopted congressional district maps with only one majority Black district. That map was challenged in federal court and found to have violated Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. In response to that challenge, the state adopted a new map in 2024 with a second majority Black congressional district. That map was then challenged in this Louisiana versus Cowlitz as unconstitutional racial gerrymandering. So that decision came last week. The case has become a broader test of how the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which prohibits voting practices that discriminate based on race, color, or membership in a language minority group, interacts with the constitutional limits in racial gerrymandering under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. In short, on April 29th, the U.S. Supreme Court, in a 6-3 decision, barred the state from using the 2024 map in future elections. Why does this matter? Washington State has 2 current cases ongoing right now related to its own redistricting maps. While this decision doesn't immediately affect our cases, it will definitely influence on how the courts evaluate them moving forward. More judicial activity last week. Senate Bill 5974, which passed in this year's legislative session, added several candidate qualification requirements for county sheriff. You may be aware. We just received an update last Thursday, actually, on the case in Spokane County Sheriff John Knowles versus State of Washington, that the Thurston County Superior Court issued an injunction on those requirements. And this ruling came literally days before the official start of candidate filing week, which started yesterday. So none of those rules in that legislative bill 5974 are in effect for candidate filing. Now on to the fun stuff. big things happening in elections. Candidate filings currently open, runs through May 8th. And this is a screenshot of the elections website where you can find everything you need to know about positions open for filing, how to file, filing fees. You can even click on the blue button and file online if you want. Additionally, I wanted to make sure you're aware of the candidates who have filed for the most up-to-date information. Kind of a lot to put on a slide, but Cowlitz County currently has 81 candidate filings with multiple contested races, and this is just Tuesday. There are currently 6 candidates for 3rd Congressional District Rep. Marie Glusenkamp's position. Our 19th Legislative District State Rep position 2, Joel McIntyre's position, is contested. Our 20th Legislative District Rep, Peter Abarno, and Ed Orcutt, they're both opposed. Jim Walsh so far is the only one that is not contested. We have 9 Supreme Court positions, 5 of which are up for election this year, and all but one of those has opposition, some of which have 3 candidates in a race. Again, it's only Tuesday. So just wanted you, if you're an elections nerd like me, you can go to the elections website and click on who's filed, and you can just keep it on refresh all week long. And if you're not an elections nerd like me, I'm done with election stuff. You have any questions for me?
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys got a lot today on your agenda. I had no idea.
Thank you.
Afternoon, Commissioners. How are we today?
Great.
So today, this afternoon, we have our second meeting, we'll call it, for our rural development applications. Once again, it's time to ask as many questions as you'd like to get informed about the projects. At the end of these presentations today, we'll have seen everyone who has applied for these funds. Any decisions can be made at that time if you prefer. But first up, we'd invite Fire District number 5. Wherever you prefer.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for being behind on your schedule because I was going to be late due to a lifeline call. So I apologize for that, but thank you for being late. And thank you for the opportunity. My name is Dick Lexo. I'm the Fire Chief with Cowlitz County Fire District 5. I've been with the agency 37 years, and I've been with the County 37. I was here last year. Thank you very much. We did put in a request last year, and we were successful about that. So being that we were here then and in 2021, I actually wanted to give a little historical overview. Commissioner, do I just say next? Next. So again, with since 2021, the grant program is graciously given us up to $250,000. There was a $200,000 in 21, $50,000 last year. That has been based off of our strategic plan where we identified 3 main components, which originally was developed in 2012, redone in 2017, and refreshed in 2022. But again, 3 main primaries were apparatus, facilities, and personnel. And out of that, we have, is it not working? How's that?
Is the light on?
I'm sorry. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to rewind or are we good?
You're good.
Okay. So with that, we have been addressing the strategic plan key components, which is apparatus, personnel, and facilities. You'll see that since 2021, and I will update that to actually since 2024. We do have 2 new apparatus on order. One is scheduled to arrive this coming August. The second one is scheduled to arrive next June. We have hired 3. We hired 3 more staff in 2025. We added a part-time staff this year. And all total, that $250,000 that we've received has helped us facilitate 8 facility projects. And I'll overview those. Next slide, please. So with that, again, the 2 new engines, we did scoping on Station 5-1, which has given us the ability in the roadmap and some of the architecture and construction numbers for expanding, remodeling Station 5-1. Scoping on Station 5-2 expansion, which again, we then also did remodeling on Station 5-2, which increased our ability to house and staff, or house and staff at that station. We can hold up to 4 at 24 hours a day at that station, which we currently could not, or historically could not do. We installed standby power generation at Station 5-1. Currently, and you will see that in what would be my left, the screen's left, currently we are in the process of the expansion of our shop facility. Excuse me. It's 3 more bays, which allows us to increase our fleet. So what we're doing with the addition of the 2 new apparatus, we're retaining 1, which gives us 1 reserve apparatus, which we've never had before, which gives us more continuity of operations, but it also assists in our Washington Survey and Rating Bureau rating, which lowers our rating, which then lowers our constituents' insurance costs. So that's current. That is expected to be completed by July 14th of this year, and we will occupy that. The next is the training grounds, which would be the far right photo, which is what the $50,000 was put towards last year. Again, we came in saying it was shovel ready. We're here to show you that the monies that you have allotted to us over the years, all of the projects and all of the goals that we set forward have been met. Currently, as you can see, the slab is down, the containers are in place, and we are now working on actually fabricating those into working mock buildings for the training component of agencies throughout the county. And then last but not least, we did actually acquire some land for future development. So all in all, we did add, as the grant asks, we did add 3 full-time positions in the last 12 months, which gives us in the first year roughly $400,000 additional payroll. We did add that 1 part-time position. Again, what that payroll is going to look like is flexible depending on hours. And then between all of these 8 projects, let me take that back. Between 7 of the projects, we estimate that we're roughly 72 positions that were utilized between electricians, concrete finishers, laborers, drivers, carpenters, welder, fabricators, sales, administration, engineering, architects, safety, all of those different components that go into providing the products, delivering the products, and getting the jobs completed. Next slide, please. So overall, the value is that the county has invested $250,000 in cooperative support to our agency. Out of that $250,000, we have invested $1,252,428 just into the 7 projects. And I say 7 because originally the number was 8. The 8th one that we're not counting that we extrapolated was the $1,731,337 that we've invested or will be investing in those 2 apparatus. We didn't include that in the, call it direct outcome of the $250,000 that the county has cooperatively supported us on. But at the end of the day, there's been a 4 times return on the grant funds that have been graciously given to us, and for that we are thankful. Next slide, please. So what does that, why am I here? Again, because we put in, again, this time for $100,000. And as we were continuing with our strategic plan, our second station out at Todd Road, where the training facility and the shop are, it has never had standby power generation. So in that photo, we had budgeted this year for a standby generator and to be able to basically hook it up and have the transfer switch. The generator is currently there in that photo. That's that kind of gray box that's back in the back, sitting on the cement pad. So we've already poured the pad. We've already got the generator. The generator's placed. The fencing, the security fencing, is going up this Saturday, or this Thursday, excuse me. What we ended up doing was saying, let's take a break here. The generator that we purchased and we brought in is 150 kW, 3-phase, or we can break the legs apart and go single phase. The facility that was built in 1994 is single phase from PUD. A BAC, a breathing air center, which is the giant metal structure that we fill our SCBA bottles in, that we utilize for IDLH, immediate, death, life hazard environments, fires, hazardous materials. Those machines operate, because they're electric drive motors, operate off a 3-phase. We have 3-phase at our main station downtown. Since this generator has the ability to run 3-phase, we took a step back and we started talking to contractors such as J.H. Kelly or Renaud about the potential, which then brought us to conversation with Cowlitz PUD, of replacing the single-phase service, PUD service, to the facility and make it a 3-phase. And then wire the 153-phase standby into the facility instead of going single-phase. The reason being is in 2027, we are slated to replace our breathing air center at Station 5-1. We've now opted to leave that 20-year-old one that still works fine at Station 5-1, buy a new one, put it in the shop expansion, because then it's there for the training grounds, but it's also there as a secondary unit for operations. It will be out of a floodplain, and of course that whole place is rock, so seismic wise it's not going anywhere. Hence the reason of our ask. We had budgeted $120,000 for the project under a single-phase component. Going to 3-phase in order to make that addition, which enhances our response to our community, enhances our stability and our continuity of operations. Running the numbers with PUD and running the numbers with J.H. Kelly, Renaud, it's going to be about $250,000 to change the PUD and then move the transformer and then wire everything standby as 3-phase. That's our ask for the additional $100,000. We'll make up the difference. Again, we budgeted that 120, 130. So we're going to probably be in the neighborhood of 10 to 20 short. We'll make that happen. But that's the ask in the project that we are coming to the commission for the Rural Economic Grant. And again, I believe and feel strongly that the monies that you have invested in us, we have done our due diligence and we have met the goals that we have put out. Next slide, please. For this project, we're estimating around 18 construction jobs. Again, we will maintain our 12 full-time positions. Our added part-time position and our 3 seasonals, and we're still running at 24 volunteers. Again, the positive impact to our community is the continuity of operations, impacting our 7,600 plus residents, our 1,200 daily folks that come in, mostly into the port, our daily workforce down in the industry. Again, the 50 port commercial and industrial businesses. And needless to say, we're going to be up to 29,000 visitors off of American Cruise Lines this year. Again, all with the intent to reduce property loss and increase life safety of everybody in our jurisdiction. Next slide, please. With that, are there any questions?
Chief, how far south does your jurisdiction go?
So the imaginary geographical line is just a little bit south of Lane Road. So about milepost 24 on I-5. And it goes basically cross country and skirts where Shirley Gordon Road comes into Green Mountain Road. Comes kind of right along there and then keeps going east. That's how far south we go. East-west, we go 22 miles up the Clamor River Road up to the 6,000 main gate. And then that's the east side. West side is the natural high water mark of the Columbia River. And then, of course, the north end is, we kind of run the ridge line along Mount Pleasant. But from the freeway side on the south end of Carroll's Bluff, if you look up, you'll see an old bridge structure. We're the north end of that bridge.
Okay.
So the focus of this isn't solely just for backup power now, it's to get you with the 3-phase capability to put your SCBA equipment in there?
One could say it's twofold. I mean, yes, one could say that the primary goal now is kind of changed to be able to be able to put that equipment in. But the secondary is since that standby power has that capability, we would prefer to link it at that level versus single.
So what do you do to fill your SCBA's now? What's the inconvenience?
So we use the system that we have downtown, which we've had there for 20 years. It is 3-phase down there. The inconvenience is when Kalama floods, we can't move it. Does it get destroyed? No, it doesn't, because it's high enough off the cement floor that we haven't had water get into the electronics and the electrical, but we can't get to it when it floods. Now, Mr. Smee and Mr. Rasmussen say that they hope we won't flood for quite some time, but you never know.
Yeah, I know the drill. So this is fundamentally a training facility, right? It's not fully manned full-time.
It is not fully manned full-time. It never has been fully manned at that, but the direction that we are going with the addition of staff is to end up moving staff out there. We are migrating to staff that full-time. Is that going to happen this year? Probably not. Is it going to happen in the next year and a half? I can't tell you it will. I can't tell you it won't. But we are moving, and that's why we remodeled the inside so that we can have staff out there. The intent is to have 2 line staff downtown, 2 line staff out on Todd Road, and run ALS units out of both stations. Then if it's a fire, they combine for structural protection on engines and backfill the remaining seats with the volunteers.
You guys are out there quite a bit, though. I see you out there utilizing that facility often.
Correct.
What kind of lead time do you need with the PUD to make this happen?
I don't have an answer with that because J.H. Kelly went and talked to PUD in reference to moving the the transformer. And apparently that was the freebie. So when I went to talk to PUD, they said I needed to fill out the application and give them $250, and then they would talk to me. So I was like, okay, time out. And I went to my commission and I said, I'm gonna go present to the county. And I would like to wait and see what the outcome of that is before we take any other steps. I didn't want to waste anybody else's time and or money without us knowing exactly which direction we're going. Are we, are we gonna go single phase? Are we gonna go three phase? Going three phase, is it solely dependent on this money? Well, yeah, not solely, but probably 90% dependent on this money. I'm not gonna lie. But I didn't follow up with PUD once they said, fill out the application and give us the money. So I don't know what the lead time is.
Okay.
I know that they're out there quite a bit because there's a county road project going on that's just a doozy.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Chief.
For our next applicant, we'd like to invite up the Cowlitz County Expo Center.
Do I have control of this, or do I just tell you? Okay. Good afternoon, and my name is Kim Bocut with the Cowlitz County Event Center, and I just want to thank you for your time today. I'm here to request $31,903 to replace 2 currently inoperable roll-up doors within our indoor arena at the Cowlitz County Event Center. Next slide, please. This is a 30,000 square foot facility that supports the fair as well as year-round use from youth 4-H and high school equestrian teams to regional livestock shows and dog trials. Our clients love utilizing this facility as it is one of the few facilities in our region that can host their events consistently throughout all seasons. Right now, 2 of the doors are no longer functional and cannot be repaired. This creates a safety risk for people and animals, and it limits our ability to operate the facility, especially during inclement weather. If we can't safely move animals and equipment in and out, we risk losing our clients to other venues. Next slide, please. When we lose events, we lose more than just facility revenue. These are often multi-day events that bring people into Cowlitz County, filling hotel rooms, supporting restaurants, and driving local spending. They also support our agriculture community by purchasing from local feed suppliers and utilizing veterinary services. Next slide. The request today is straightforward, is a straightforward infrastructure fix. With funding, we can replace the doors with commercial grade systems and have the project completed within about 120 days. Completion will restore full functionality and protect the long-term use and marketability of this facility. Our current maintenance budget cannot absorb this cost, and delaying it will increase both risk and the likelihood of event disruption. I feel this is a small investment that protects an important county asset and helps sustain ongoing economic activity. Thank you. Short, sweet. Any questions?
In that picture, Kim, is there something propping that door open?
We can raise it with a forklift.
Yeah.
They're not motorized doors now. You want to convert them to motorized?
They are motorized, but the motors are burned out.
Okay.
So we have to lift them with the forklift. We used to be able to lift them manually, but everything's kind of froze up.
Yeah, and I remember seeing correctly one time they had to use something to hold it up because they could get it up, but it would come back down. And I was just waiting for that to fall on somebody. Yeah, pretty bad situation.
Yes.
Any additional questions from the board?
Just for reference, I did bring a few numbers. In 2024, that arena was used 156 days out of the year. 2025, the arena was used 191 days out of the year. And in 2026 so far, as of April 30th, I don't have my May numbers in yet because we are just a few days into May, but we've already used it 90 days in 2026. It is one of our more utilized buildings on the grounds.
What does it do for you to have those doors there at all? Why not just remove them?
It protects from the elements. It keeps, they're pretty large, so having those open, especially in the wintertime, when we have different, horse shows aren't as impacted, but dog shows are. Dog shows are, there's a lot more people in there and a lot less, or the animals are smaller. So it gets really cold, really drafty. The one at the west end of the building, that doesn't open or close, that it just stays closed in the wintertime. The other one is actually a main egress door, the one at the north side.
And if I remember correctly, is it the one on the east side that is used to get the tractor in there to do the dirt work? And they have to get by the forklift that's holding the door open?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
Questions?
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for our next applicant, we'd like to invite the city of Castle Rock.
Green light on?
Yep,
There you go.
thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to present today. My name is Tyler Stone. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Castle Rock. With me today is the Mayor, Paul Hellenberg. The proposed project I'm bringing you today isn't just an infrastructure improvement. It's adding capacity that's necessary for planned development on the east side of Castle Rock, directly aligned with the purpose of creating and retaining jobs. Next slide. This project consists of installing approximately 800 feet of a 6-inch sewer force main along WashDOT right-of-way near I-5 at exit 49. The goal is to extend the existing pressure sewer system that crosses I-5 and connect it to a main sewer trunk line on Huntington Avenue North, adding system capacity and reliability. For reference, this is the same area as the Castle Rock Visitor Center and Park and Ride, and most of the work would take place right outside of the existing parking lot. Next slide. Currently, sewer is pumped across I-5 into a manhole, then flows by gravity through a residential neighborhood. The neighborhood sewer system is reaching maximum capacity when taking pump station flows from the east side. This creates risk to nearby homes and limits the city's ability to grow safely and responsibly. In the past couple of years, the city's had situations where peak pump station flows coming from the east side of town have caused sewer backups and overflows into homes. This isn't something anyone wants to have happen and something we could absolutely avoid with our proposed solution. Next slide, please. Our solution is to extend the force main, bypassing this residential area completely. This will improve reliability, reduce risk, and increase capacity to support future growth on the east side of Castle Rock. This solution offers several benefits to the problem. The extension essentially bypasses 100 homes, removing a known bottleneck and redirects flows to infrastructure that's already designed to handle them. So this isn't just kicking the can down the road. Next slide. The cost estimate for this is $365,500. And this is based off of our engineer's opinion of probable cost. This is a lower request than we've seen in previous years for the rural funds, but leads to the fastest impact we've had by instantly giving residents a huge amount of increased security from sewer backups and overflows into their homes. For a project of this scale, delivers a high return and impact for the dollars spent, while adding the capacity required to accommodate the planned development near exit 49. This project directly supports the intent of rural facilities funding by enabling business growth, supporting existing employers, and attracting new businesses, all of which are currently in the works as we speak. The project takes some of the financial burden away from single developers and making it feasible to expand on the east side of exit 49 in Castle Rock. Next slide. With this investment, we unlock real development opportunities, like the plan on the screen, which is a recent proposal we've had. The property owner is pushing to develop 12 acres of vacant property across from the 49er restaurant on Doherty Drive. The past developer looked into this property back in 2007, and unfortunately sewer upgrades at the time made feasibility a factor in deciding to not move forward. Expanding sewer capacity removes this key barrier, allowing projects like this one to move forward and support long-term growth in Castle Rock, including commercial, residential, and recreational developments. We've also had a business owner getting ready to double the size of their commercial space in a nearby Minute Mart, with plans to add a new restaurant that feeds into the same system, along with several other vacant commercial properties on the east side of town that are limited to growth due to the same issues. Next slide. We estimate creating approximately 6 jobs during construction, leading to around 120 permanent full-time positions, including family wage jobs, along with additional part-time and seasonal employment opportunities. These estimates are based off of data from the CEDC and Clark County research we've seen in the past. This project is ready to move forward with funding approval. Our engineers have taken pump station capacities, completed the preliminary design work, including pump station specs and pipe sizing needed for the project. We have a basic route planned using easements and washed out right-of-way we've used for previous utilities, and final design can begin immediately. With only a washed out permit for this project and most, if not all, the project being outside of the roadway, we anticipate this project being fairly straightforward. Construction could begin in early 2027 and be fully completed by March of 2027. And these timelines are pretty conservative. Beyond economic benefits, this project protects neighbors, supports public health, and ensures our infrastructure keeps pace with growth. It's our responsibility to existing infrastructure users to make sure they have healthy and safe facilities while we move forward to accommodate the anticipated growth in the community. This project accomplishes all of these. In closing, this project unlocks safe, sustainable growth, protects existing residents, and lays the foundation for new jobs and services. Funding this request allows Castle Rock to move forward immediately and deliver these benefits without delay. The city of Castle Rock has a strong track record of completing projects like this one successfully, and this one won't be any different. Thank you for the opportunity to present this important project today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
You said it's ready to go, but you can't start till February of 27?
That's a pretty conservative number. I think the engineers said that just waiting on WashDOT permitting, we could go out to advertise by October or November of this year, and it's a fairly small project. They put February and March to just in case, for a backup plan, just in case something were to happen.
And then, so is bypassing the neighborhood not, you are eliminating the bottleneck that's taking place, but is this going to add extra capacity above and beyond what you currently have?
This would add capacity to that neighborhood, about 140 gallons per minute. It's flowing through there right now. And in high system times, I guess you'd say, it just doesn't have anywhere to go.
And you said that's about 140 homes?
140 gallon, 100 homes.
100 homes?
Yeah. opens up.
Across from, I don't remember the name of the road there, but it opens up across the 49er on the other side of that whole road.
Yep, there's 12 acres over there that we've had a pre-app meeting.
There is some, in there, some housing up in there a little bit.
There are some.
Are those on septic or are they on your system?
Those
They're
are
on your system? Okay.
So this just becomes a parallel line to the existing line?
It would, yeah.
Yeah.
Just essentially just bypassing the residential area. So the commercial space on the east side of exit 49 wouldn't be affecting approximately 100 homes.
Okay.
Else?
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tyler.
For our next presentation, I'd like to invite the City of Longview Parks Department. Do we need another chair, Justin?
All right, good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the ability to talk to you about this project here real quick. I just have a few slides for you, and it hopefully is complimentary information outside of what's already in your packet. So, okay, so we're here discussing the opportunity to add lighting to one of the 4 fields at 7th Avenue softball field. This is a heavily used sports complex. It's home to our Longview Girls Softball Association. We're on average, they're right around 500 girls in the spring season, 200 to 250 on average in the fall, along with multiples of competitive teams that use the field. It's also the home fields used by Mark Morris High School girls softball. So their JV and varsity teams utilize fields 2 and 3 for all of their home games here, along with probably about 50% of their practices. So there's pretty strong demand for use down there for their spring seasons. Their travel teams, tournament teams actually don't have the ability to practice at the park down there because there's not enough field space availability to accommodate both the recreation and the competitive side of what they do. So yeah, okay, next slide. Okay, so this was LGSA's attempt to solve the problem. These are construction lights. So they're diesel powered, 23-foot tall, you know, any standard lighting that you would see at a big construction project that J.H. Kelly may be using or something like that. So as you can see, the lighting is pretty inconsistent and definitely does not help light the field to a safe, playable manner. This tournament was actually late October, supposed to be a Halloween costume tournament that was put on by the league. So next slide. So the solution would be to add an actual lighting system to this field. As you can see in this picture here, this is the lighting map of what 4 Musco poles with their LED lighting system would do for us. If you can see, there's a 39 right in the middle of the outfield there, or the infield behind second base. That is the lighting scale that was in the previous picture at its brightest. So that would be the worst location with these lights, was the best with the construction lighting, if that makes sense. So drastic improvement by adding these 4 poles with the LED system to the fields. One of the great things about going with Musco is they have a 25-year manufacturer warranty. So if any of the LEDs go out, they come back in and replace that full driver set. If we have any corrosion on the poles that's actually causing a structural issue, they'll come and replace those free of charge. Practical life expectancy on these is about 40 years. The maintenance on them is just getting up there and cleaning the glass off of the LEDs. So once every few years, go up there and spray, wipe it off, and we're done. So everything else is just flip the switch, lights come on, and the kids get to play. So When we talk about the increase in playable hours, over the course of our 7 months, we're going to talk February to October. Obviously, November, December, January are really weather dependent. We don't play a lot around here, especially since they don't have turf there. So if we're talking that February to October, you're looking at an increase of about 476 playable hours just by adding lights to this one single field. All right, just quickly, some recent investments into the field. This has been a combination effort between the City of Longview and the Longview Girls Softball Association. So they put about $5,000 into each field, putting new surface materials in there. They've added new security lighting and security fencing to the facility to make it safer for the girls and protect their investment, the city's investment. And then the bottom left photo that you see there will be a new asphalt path that will be installed this late summer to add ADA access out to their T-ball field and field 4. So currently there is no path to either one of those. You're going through tall grass. So that asphalt path will allow them easier access for people in wheelchairs or just mobility issues in general. So next slide. So the community benefit is immediate impact for our local families that are participating in those leagues, increased practice and game availability. And that's really the biggest one. They're able to accommodate more. Their customer service is going to be much better to the patrons that are already participating in that league. There'll be more practice times that our volunteer coaches will be able to choose from instead of having to fit into the league's schedule. They can kind of tailor things around their schedule a little bit better, which will help them attract coaches. And in turn, hopefully putting out a better product because you're getting coaches that can come out and be there when it fits their schedule, not when they're being told that they have to be there. It also reduces cancellations due to daylight constraints. In our area in the spring, obviously weather becomes an issue. And so having lights allows for games to be played later into the day. They can reschedule games into periods when they typically would not be able to when weather's nice because they have those lights, adding, a couple hours to the day. So next slide. Okay, so the economic impact. This is a little hard to nail down, but I'm going to give you some numbers that are from an organization called Sports ETA, and they do some economic forecasting for youth sports all across the country. So the biggest piece to this is the ability to host more tournaments with lights. So if we're just talking the one field, I'll give you some quick numbers. The Sports ETA organization estimates that an individual spends between $150 to $250 a day per person when they're traveling out of town for a tournament. So if we're talking a 2-day tournament, we bring in one out-of-town team, you're looking at, somewhere around the tune of $4,000 brought into our community, spent on food, gas, hotels, those type of things. A new pair of baseball pants or a bat or something like that the kid forgot. So the hope is with a facility where we can open up playing times, open up to more teams, we'll attract those out of town, more competitive teams that will come here, they'll stay here, they'll spend money here, along with we're keeping our competitive teams in our community rather than them traveling out of town, going to Olympia, going to Portland, going to Bend, Spokane, those places. So if we take a Saturday, Sunday tournament, 8 to 5 p.m., 90-minute games, double elimination tournament, we can take 6 teams. If we expand that with lights, we go 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday, Sunday, we can take 9 teams. So assuming 1.5 of those teams are from out of town, we're increasing local spending by somewhere $6,000 to $9,000, according to that Sports ETA organization, over the course of one weekend on one field. The other piece of this is future leverage. When we're applying for grants, whether it be state, federal, private grant dollars, one of the biggest pieces that's always asked is is this last dollars in to finish a project. So having one of these fields lit gets us partway there to lighting that full facility, makes us more competitive in that grant process. So is the RCO grant window just closed. We did submit an application to light the rest of those fields along with some of soccer fields. And if we are awarded funding from the three of you for this project, we could use that as local match dollars for that grant as well. Next slide. Okay, so this differs a little bit from what our application says. We are ready to deliver on this project. The site's already developed, power is already there. The contractor just has to be hired to come in and do those lights. The only permitting that is required is for the poles. Fairly simple, straightforward building permit. The lighting plan is complete by Musco already, so the forward can move quickly upon funding. So our ask at the end of the day is your support funding this through the Rural County Public Facility Funds. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Remind me again how much that one was?
About 366.
Oh, 366, okay.
Justin, do you know how many tournaments they currently have? And we're talking, so will it increase the number of tournaments or just the number of participants in the tournaments? Or both?
Both. So LGSA has plans to expand and is on the verge of hosting at least a couple more tournaments this year. They currently host about 5 on average over the course of the year. The biggest complaint that we hear from them and their volunteer board is just time. Not being able to play into the nighttime severely limits the amount of teams that they can bring in, which doesn't make it worth their efforts and the volunteer labor to put on more tournaments. So we as in Parks and Recreation we just partnered with USSSA and they are our facility user now out at Roy Morris Park. They have expressed interest in hosting tournaments at other locations around town as well. So we're currently having those conversations with them too, to see where and how and what we can expand that relationship together too. So.
What would it do to your project if you got 50% of that instead of 100% of it from us?
The quick and easy answer is we wouldn't be able to move forward. The answer that I would like to give you to take a little more time would be I could get creative and we could figure something out. There is some engineering costs in there. We can go back to the vendor. I think we can potentially get that down a little bit, but I'm not sure how far.
You mentioned you put in for some RCO grants. How much did you?
I believe our total ask from RCO was just shy of 1.5 million.
0.5.
Yeah, so that will light 2 more, the other 2 fields at 7th, part of their 3-wheel wagon there. And then it will add 6 lights to the soccer portion of that park across the big parking lot. So half of that side is actually Kaiser's property. So if you cut the city park in half over there, it will light half of the space that soccer uses. It's about the size of 2 adult soccer fields.
Yeah, okay.
So this is just one cog in that giant wheel that you guys are wanting to do out there.
Yeah. One of the other pieces and why we're going after the single field at LGSA first is for female facilities in our area. There's not a whole lot that has lights on it. You've got the 2 fields at Kelso, and that's it. There are no other softball fields that are lit in the area. So this is a good first step to provide that additional amenity to them.
Are you referring to the ones at Tamo?
Yeah.
Where the LCC plays?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Other than those 2, there are no other dedicated, youth softball fields in the area that have lights.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
saving the best for last, it sounds like. We're going to have City of Longview Library.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Jacob Cole. I'm the Library Director of the Longview Public Library. Right, the next slide. As you may know, the Longview Public Library was opened in 1926 as a gift from R.A. Long. It is at 1600 Louisiana Street. In 1967, the library added an additional portion and it doubled the size of the library. It's currently 33,000 square feet. The building is used for educational and literacy purposes primarily, housing resources and artifacts of Longview's history. Next slide. The Longview Public Library has been seeking funding from multiple grant sources for carpet replacement because we believe the importance in providing an accessible and safe space to the public. The current carpet is probably, we believe, from 1967. It's discolored, it's dilapidated, it's a tripping hazard in certain places where it's been patched. There's no current funding capacity available in the library's departmental budget or the city's capital improvement budget. These funds are necessary to improve the space now. Next slide. So this slide and the next couple slides are just kind of showing the damage and the discoloration to the carpet. This is the main portion of the reading room of the library on the main floor. Next slide. And one more slide. All right. So while there are other public libraries in Cowlitz County, the Longview Public Library serves the most citizens and provides space for the largest events of its type. Families from all over Cowlitz County and even outside of this county come for our various events. We have 345 showed up at our volunteer fair. We just had the library's anniversary that had over 300. We have LongCon, which is like a cosplay, science fiction, comic book type of convention, and that had 600 people back in February. We have our Columbia Authors Festival, which is coming up in May. It gives about 500 visitors coming in from the region. And then total, we had 112,000 visits last year. Next slide. So the Longview Library Foundation has committed $5,000 toward this project. The City of Longview's Facilities Department will provide the necessary labor to rip out the old carpet and put in the new carpet. We're looking at carpeting squares so that if there's any kind of mess, discoloration, problems, we can replace the carpet instead of having to rip up, an entire section or anything like that. Over the last 4 years between the state and the city of Longview, $2 million has been invested into the library, replacing the roof, sealing the exterior, replacing the windows, upgrading the lighting, replacing the HVAC system. The local Rotary renovated one of our meeting rooms, and J.H. Kelly has replaced our public restrooms. So the community has invested in this place as a place of learning and a place of community and culture. And so we are just trying to maintain the structure for its designated purposes. Any questions?
Pretty straightforward.
All right. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. To recap, Commissioners, we've had 10 applicants that we've heard from over the last 2 weeks. The total request of funding has been approximately $4.11 million. We have approximately $1.56 million in funding available for the 2026 year. We're looking for any direction from the board if you're ready at this time.
I would take a little time and I get you my thoughts on it tomorrow if that helps. Let me kind of review them all.
Yeah.
It's a tough year because we don't have a whole lot of funding for, a lot of good asks.
Mhm.
And once again, we don't, on some of the smaller, we have used interest earnings before. We've used all those up, so we don't have any interest earnings that can be applied this year.
Correct. And we will not have
Okay.
interest earnings moving forward.
Okay. Oh, okay,
We do
yeah,
not.
all right. Okay.
Do we have to make that decision in a public meeting, or can we just relay the info to Sean?
Well, I think we can relay to Sean, and then it would have to be a final one in a public, but if he takes our thoughts and maybe he kind of groups them,
Yeah.
he can work with us independently and probably come up with a solution that we can entertain.
Yeah, and if we have any reduced funding options, maybe as Commissioner Farrell talked about, maybe half, we can work with those applicants and see if that's still a viable option for them.
Yeah. I should have asked Longview on the lighting here that did the RCO. Do you have, because I know RCO does, part of their fund scoring is if you have some, matching dollars or matching labor or something like that. Do you have that already for that lighting with RCO?
So because of the deadline of that grant and when this meeting was to happen, we let our RCL manager know that we would be submitting that application tentative to this meeting. So
Okay, so
our
this one here would kind of serve as your matching funds with RCO to get that.
that would meet
big
our
one.
matching requirements would be this funding, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, does that sound fine, Sean?
Sounds fine. We'll work forward from
Okay.
there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody. Let's see. Goodness, we had a couple other things, didn't we? Y'all see, I imagine they probably talked to you about it yesterday too,
Yeah,
that letter for the port.
Yeah.
I read it.
We okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. So that takes that out. Okay, good. Then I'm seeing this risk have a take long. Do you want to touch on any other commissioner, or do you want to touch with Sean on another date? I think.
I already talked to Sean about it. I wanted to bring up the hiring freeze that we discussed and see if it was something that we wanted to move forward with countywide. I did speak with the electeds, and they're all on board and understanding what we are wanting to do. We just need to make a decision if we want to move forward with that this
Yeah.
time. Sean, can you just real quick tell us what by implementing the hiring freeze, what it does to our budget, what that number is?
So in the general fund, if we were to initiate a hiring freeze, looking at positions that have not already been taken into consideration for budget reductions that we've initiated already, would save the county approximately $1.48 million this year. Now, these positions that are open may still need to be filled. These are just a snapshot in time of those open positions.
Yeah.
You know, as of Monday, we had an ask from the Offender Services that we did have a request still, but she did offset those. So
How much? What is the number again?
all in costs on those would be about $1.48 million.
And there was some talk about the way Thurston County did it, that we could still entertain what we considered critical
Issues, yeah.
Mhm.
positions. If we have an agreement that gives us that ability, I'd be all in for it.
And of these open positions, there are many of them in the prosecuting attorney's office. And so, you know, if there is a qualified applicant, he may still want to move forward and come to the board at that point.
Yeah, and the way I understood that when I went through that is that if there was a need, they could just bring it to us and we can make an amendment to it and move forward in that manner, which I'm fine with.
Okay, so our message out would be, hey, we're having a hiring freeze. If you believe it's a critical position, we'll certainly entertain it, but
Come justify it.
yeah, I'm good with that.
Do we need to make a motion to do that?
I would say so, yeah. I would just encourage you to, even if not.
I'd make a motion to implement a hiring freeze across the countywide, all departments for 2026.
Okay, we have a motion to implement a hiring freeze. We do have the understanding that there could be some critical position we need to look at. So I doubt we don't have anybody here to discuss, so I think we're all good. Okay, I'll just call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? Long day. We're all good?
I'm good.
Okay, we will adjourn.